Welcome into On Texas Football. Special guest for you this Saturday morning on the Saturday Conversation. That is University of Texas Athletic Director, Chris Del Conte. How you doing, Chris?
Bobby, good to be with you. All is well on the 40.
It's all going good. Hey, I appreciate you being here. I know the fans do too, and your accessibility to Longhorn fans is one of the things that I think makes you one of the more popular ADs in University of Texas history. I don't mind saying that. Of course, the winning helps too. You've hired a lot of great coaches. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, let's get to some latest news. On Thursday, Coach Sarkisian finalized what we had thought was going to be the case. He said that there would be no traditional spring game. In recognition of that, you know that spring game is a big deal for the University of Texas and it's historic, et cetera. Is there anything that you as an athletic department or the football program may be thinking about to replace that or do something that's a fan appreciation day or anything like that?
For sure. And let's just talk a little bit about Steve's decision. This is actually, we had a conversation in November, and Steve's been very pragmatic on his approach. And I think at the beginning of the year, remember our student athletes reported in June, right? Think about that. They reported in June. And as we were looking and contemplating the season, Steve always had in mind January 20th. I love how he thinks, championship weekend. And we started to look at a schedule being built out. And more importantly, how the depth of our our football program will be played out throughout the year. And if you remember that first game at the beginning of the year, we lost 2 running backs during fall camp, actually 3. And we started looking at the depth and the length of a season. So you start in June, you're going through spring with summer conditioning, then you start 2-a-days in August with an end date of January 20th. And as we are progressing through the season, once right before the SEC championship game, you start to think about, you play an SEC championship game, then you have first round, second round, third round in the championship. There's 5 extra games. We played 16 games this year with potential of 17. At that time, it was just starting to look at a schedule, what it looked like, and then wear and tear on your student athletes, those that are graduating. He started looking at rotations throughout the year. And Bobby, you're very astute. You see how he was really rotating a lot of guys throughout the year, and it was really with preparation of a full season. About November, we started talking about OTAs and what that looked like, because you lost 30, you'll graduate 30 kids. You had a portal. You're bringing in 25 new freshmen transfers. It was really about how do we maintain health of an organization? What do we bring with new kids in? The spring game, which I love, because at the end of the day, I love the spring game. But once we looked at, hey, we're not going to have a traditional spring game. We're going to do a big fan fest. I have a town hall next week, and we'll talk about the fan fest. I remember when I was a little kid, field day. Remember field day? You had all these things. So we're going to make it really interactive. We're going to have everything that we do on a game day, but have a fan fest that weekend. We play A&M that afternoon in baseball. So we can really do some cool things around that. And our marketing team is they're jacked up about this opportunity. I know there's some disappointment in that, but we're going to have our traditional, the equipment sale. We'll do everything we do. We'll have a chance to meet the team, autographs, and have a fan fest. Just thanking our fans. I mean, they've been unbelievable, showing up and showing out. We had 3,000 people for a swim meet. 10,000 for Vic in baseball, softball. We have a softball game the same time we had a women's basketball game, and both games are sold out. We also want to just honor our fans and do something cool for them. But our marketing team is hard at work. We'll have some pretty cool things that day. We're looking at April 26th for that day. I know people are disappointed about a traditional game, but the ultimate goal is to win a championship. And the ultimate goal is really to honor our fans and thank them. But at the same time, the health and wellness of our fans, of our student athletes, are most important. And it's unusual this year playing a 16-game schedule. With every year, we want to play on that 17th game. And I applaud Steve for his thinking and understood it. So I understand the disappointment, but you got to look in its totality.
Hey, as long as you're throwing a Longhorn party, we'll be there. That's what it sounds like it's going to be. I think some folks will come out. Last year's entry to the SEC, for example, was a tremendous situation where I think you got an overwhelming amount of support from that event. Maybe this could be something that happens on a yearly basis where people come back and hang out at the university. I want to ask you next and go to the next topic, if you don't mind. You guys, there was a meeting down in New Orleans with the SEC and Big Ten group. My question to you, Steve, to you on that, Chris, is this: 9-game schedule was one of the topics for the SEC. Right now, you have an 8-game schedule, and then you have a 2026 schedule that has yet to be released. Where is the SEC currently at with going to a 9-game conference schedule based on y'all's latest meetings? And then also, when can we expect the 2026 schedule to be out? Anytime.
Well, let's look. We contemplated when we joined the league in an 8-game schedule. I was at that point in time. I'm a big proponent of 9 games.
Okay.
Why I'm a big proponent of 9 games is selfishly we play 1 game at a neutral site. So last year we had the benefit of having 4 SEC games at home. This year we only get 3. So with a 9-game schedule, it'll give us a balance of 4 on the road, 4 at home, and then our neutral site game. When we were in the Big 12 conference with 9 games, it always assured us 4 games at home. I understand that's coming from me. At the same time, it's our first year in a 12-game playoff. So I think the conversations were really from my point of the meetings this week was just how the 12-game playoff looked like. You had a game at home. I love the home game. We had, we went from a home game back to Atlanta to Dallas. Then if we would have been successful back to Atlanta again. So the reality is you're looking at how was that structured. There's nothing magical about that. It was just look at the CFP format. What does 26 look like? So it was really just having a discussion of real time. The 9th game for me has always just been, I've been a huge proponent of that, but that's because of how we're structured at home in terms of a neutral site game. So those conversations are ongoing and they're fluid.
What did some of the notes that came out from the national media based on those meetings? One of them had to do with a play-in game instead of a 1 versus 2 for the SEC championship. So 3 would play 6 and 4 would play 5 if y'all expand the playoffs, right? If college football expands from 12 to 16 teams. Did y'all go that deep on that? Thought process?
No, that's a barnyard chicken looking for a story. You know what I mean? that's you've seen it. If you ever grew up on a ranch, your chickens, they'll just go scratch something out. It's slow news week going on right now. It's off season, so I think that was nothing from the real contemplation is just what did 12 games look like? How was a home game? Like I loved having home game at home this year.
Yep.
What the pomp and circumstance of playing that game was awesome. Looking at how going to it. For my biggest concern was a home game, going to Atlanta to Dallas. How did that look like? And you're preserving bowl games at the same time. You're looking at a new era of college playoff. So that was really the intent of the conversations. Any other conjecture moving forward was just what does the future look like?
I got it.
I remember one year. 1AA. I don't think they call it 1AA anymore, but for my age, I'm going to still call it 1AA. It used to be an 8-game playoff, and it went to 16. It's 24, right? The NFL has a 14 team in the playoff. Because it's all new, you're just looking and having discussions about what does it look like. And one of the things that made college football great is bowls and the bowl games and where they and the pomp and circumstance around those and people that weren't in the playoff had a wonderful bowl experience. So there was really not a meat on that bone that you could look at, but I get Bobby, what you guys do. You'll throw I almost said it. You'll throw stuff out there on the old feed yard for the chicken to go dig up.
Hey, it wasn't me. I was quoting other people, but I get it. I get what you're saying. It wasn't the gist of the conversation. No, most of it was about the playoffs overall and how that fits in.
And how was this year? It's so new. We had windows that you had windows that we played on Friday night. How was that? How was you think about you typically in a bowl game you go for 5 days, so it was a 3-day visit. What was that look like? The bowls had to make a big adjustment on what they do within their cities because bowl games have been great for economics of their city. So it was just more of those type of conversations, and anything that was put forth that was futuristic, it might have been this much of a conversation, but that gets all your headline, Bobby. And I'm like, okay, what was that all about?
Well,
I walk out of those. Sorry.
I was going to ask you, do you think we're going to a 14 or 16, or is it just up to Greg Sankey, Tony Petito, and the powers that be?
I mean, I think from me, the biggest conversations were, again, I walk out of those meetings, I'm like, was I even in that meeting? Because some of the stuff that gets reported, I'm like, God, that was not really, again, here at Texas, we have Innovation Tuesdays. We throw up all kinds of stuff. Hey, what do you think of this? What would you think would work? Would it be game day, in-house, food vendors? We just constantly talk about what we do on social media. If any of those topics came out of that meeting, you would think, man, what are they doing? But it was more, again, it was not, it was such an insignificant part of the conversation. This meeting was really about what happened this year. What did it look like? You had people from the Big Ten that had their own games. What did that look like? How was that experience work out? The seating, what do we look differently in seating? How was that? I mean, the 4 teams that had a bye, they lost their games. They had, if you, from my perspective and from Steve's perspective, we played every 10 days. So your teams were different. So in theory, you used to have 24 days off, but both teams had 24 days off. Other teams were playing. We played SEC, first game, second. We were right up. We were marching along, and that was a topic of a discussion. Just how did that nuance work for playing a game every 10 days, and that was new. So it was just more of how did you feel about that? How you did not feel about it. I walk out. Next thing you know, they're talking about some formula that you got, Bobby, and I was like, where? What? Yeah.
Hey, somebody, it came from somewhere. I think that,
again, there's a barnyard chicken, and they're just trying to think of things to find on a slow news day.
Well, that's why we come to you to get the answers. Other answers, question for you moving forward to something that's more internal to you. And I know a big feather in your cap over the years has been facilities upgrades and projects. A couple of them are, or at least one of them, ongoing right now. The indoor facility, I know they started raising the old social work building to make room for the indoor facility. What is the progress on that? And do you have anything else in the plans right now for the future?
And I think facilities are really done to give our coaches and student athletes all the tools necessary to be successful. When you think about it, we did the softball building a couple of years ago. We did baseball renovation. We did track renovation. We did the Moody Center. We did basketball practice facility. We did the football indoor facility. Their offices and their infrastructure. The next iteration is this indoor. The building has been raised. Now we're into setting the foundation of having a football indoor and practice facility. For me, and thinking about, we've had that bubble for so long. In 2000, it was innovative and new.
Yeah.
We look at where our teams walk to and from practice. It's having that facility right next to give efficiency and give modernization to our football program. But that indoor will help all of our athletic programs. So I'm really excited about that. We didn't have a camera down there for construction, but we now mount a camera so we can start watching and monitoring what that looks like. But we're on pace to open that facility up in the spring of about next summer, this time next summer. Early June, that facility will be completed. I'm excited about that. At the same time, we're also and we're moving the press box from the west side to the end zone. So we're in the process of doing that construction right now, so we can remodel the press box for suites and clubs, because those revenues help generate the money to build the indoor facility. So everything that we're doing has a process and a thought process to it, and we're right on schedule.
Where are you at? I know one of the things that we talked about is grass at Dish Falk and grass at DKR. Any of those thought processes, are they further into the future for you?
I think we've contemplated, and obviously I'm a big fan of grass. I think that the reality is once, if we're going to contemplate grass, it'll be for the 26th season. And why I say that is everyone uses the football stadium right now. And it's not our football team's wear and tear. It's actually the band. the band, they stay in one place, and so it doesn't. But you think about it, a tuba player just marching in one place. So the idea of having the bubble for them to go practice, or having an indoor facility for them to go practice, then you could free up the field and put grass in it. So once the practice facility and the indoor are complete in the spring of 26, you could then look at taking the turf out of DKR and putting grass in.
Gotcha. Good stuff. All right. Next thing.
And by the way, in Dish Falk, they've never had grass. This was crazy to me. Is that thing when it built back in the day, it was like AstroTurf. Remember how it used to be AstroTurf? And we've never had grass in there, but we laid that new field turf right before I got here, and I know that's something that Coach Slosh would like to look at and explore moving down the path. But one of the funny things is in DKR, we've moved from grass to turf, grass to all history, back and forth, back and forth. In Dish Falk, it has been either a synthetic old school turf, a field turf, or actually it was AstroTurf to field turf. So that's on topic of Coach Slosh as well.
Gotcha. All right. House settlement is on the tip of every athletic director's tongue. Early April, y'all are supposed to hear back from that. And we'll see if revenue share gets approved, if scholarship limits change, and all these other things. Just from an internal view perspective for you, not looking at everybody else in the world, what does it mean at the University of Texas from a rev share perspective and from, say, a number of scholarship perspective in a sport like football, where there may not be walk-ons anymore?
Well, let's look at the publicity rights and scholarship rights that are being afforded. When I signed a scholarship years ago, my scholarship said, for the right to get an athletic scholarship, the institution will have your publicity rights to promote the program. And I got free education. And it's the greatest gift I ever got. And I think the unintended consequence being lost here is that we're educating more young people to get free education outside of any other process in America besides the GI Bill. And we're talking about right now forgiving $1.2 trillion of student loan debt. And yet we don't talk about the education we offer young people. So to me, I understand the publicity rights. And I understand that, hey, there's a young kid, the generation of revenue coming from television and the like. There should be different rights. So when you think about a publicity right for a football player, when I was a CFO at Arizona years ago, our revenue share from the conference was $3 million. Now it's 60. Television contracts. There should be some publicity rights generated that you afford young people to use those marks and earn publicity for that. But right now, the big thing is scholarships. We used to have there's 11 scholarships for 35 baseball players. Under the new proposed rules, you would no longer have scholarship limits. You would have a roster limits. So you'd have 34 scholarships. Softball would have 25. You would have all these sports would have afforded scholarships to their entire roster. That's about a $9 million hit to our budget, on top of the publicity rights of $20 million. So it's a $30 million expense to our budget. At the University of Texas, I believe we have the very best athletic program in the country. We won 3 out of 4 Directors' Cups. We're winning. We want to win championships in every sport. We had 16 student athletes participate in the Olympic Games this past summer. As a country, we would have finished 15th. We've been in every single Olympic game since 1908 or 1904, excuse me. Think through that. We are going to, so my goal is to fund every scholarship to its roster. I want to give our coaches and student athletes every tool necessary to win a championship. And if the roster is 34 for baseball, then get 34 scholarships. It's 35 for track and field. We're going to give them 35 scholarships. That's our goal, because that's what we should do to be great. That's what we should do at the University of Texas. Publicity rights are coming down the pike, and if this gets passed, so our obligation is going to figure out how do we fund $30 million of new expense, and we'll work through that. But what I'm going to do is make sure that every one of our sports is fully funded to the best of their abilities, that we can adhere to what starts here changes the world. And as a Longhorn Nation, if we do this together, we have a chance to continue the momentum that we've built under DeLoss Dodds, Chris Plonsky, Jody Conrad, Donald Lopiano, these great administrators. I'm standing on their shoulders, and our responsibility is to adhere what they built.
Football scholarship numbers, what is that? It's up.
The roster is 85. I mean, the roster is 105 with 85 scholarships. Not saying that could go or not go up, but right now you're going to have 20. You're going to have 105 roster, and you're going to have 85 scholarships. So right now the intention is to keep it there to see what they look like, but you're still going to have walk-ons. You have 20 walk-ons.
Okay, so you're going to do that. Okay,
yeah.
I got it. You're going to keep a typical walk-on, even though you have
Yeah, for sure. It's important. Okay. It's important, Steve. It's important for young people to get an opportunity to come to the University of Texas and participate.
Okay, good stuff. Next question. You have really made a mark, not only improving facilities, which I think you've done a wonderful job. Game days are apps. I mean, Chris, I say this not just for myself, but for all the fans that I speak with. Your attention to detail around game days has just transformed game Saturdays for a lot of Texas fans into family-friendly affairs. They come back and go hang out with their old college roommates, the whole 9 yards. It's been fantastic. It really has. But another thing you've done is acquire high-end coaches at Texas. You've been particularly good at it. You mentioned Jim Schlossnagle being one of them, coming over from A&M, but also Bob Bowman won the national championship in swimming and diving over at Arizona State. He's now the Texas swim diving coach. You have Laura Ionello, who won a golf national championship at Arizona. She's now the women's golf coach. What is it about you that is able to go out and get these coaches? And then how do you lean into Texas and use Texas to make those things happen?
Well, first, I'd like to just give credit to Drew Martin and his entire team for enhancing what we do on game days. And, awesome. I'm a big fan of R&D, rip off and duplicate. One of the things I look at is when we go on the road, I'll study what everyone does. Like I said, we went to Disney, we went to Ritz-Carlton, we went to everyone to sit there and say, tell me what you do that creates an incredible investment for your fans to use their discretionary income on us. And so we're constantly tweaking to that. We may have ideas, but we'll have guys like Chuck that comes in my office and say, I got something for the concerts. So all these things, we're just asking people, Longhorn Nation, to come spend their Saturdays with us, invest their discretionary income, and get value for that. When you look at what we've done in Moody this year with both men and women's basketball being completely sold out in volleyball, your dollar is precious to you and it's precious to me because you're choosing to spend it with us. So we're trying to create an environment that you think, man, this is awesome. And hopefully the product on the field continues to inspire you as well. So there's countless men and women involved in that, and no idea is a bad idea. They'll come up with an idea. I said, do it. If it fails, I'll take the blame. If it works, I'll give you all the credit, because you want them to continue to have ideas and not feel like they're walking on eggshells.
Okay, then whose idea was the drone show? Because that's the winner.
Let me run some. I found that, by the way. I saw someone doing that somewhere else. I go, that's awesome. Why don't we do that here? So we saw it. It was like an inauguration or something. I go, we can do that. Come back and I go, Drew, we got to do a drone show. He goes, what are you talking about? So we talked about it. He went out and found it. He goes, all right. We launched it a couple years ago, or last year, and it was awesome. So at night games, it's been like the thing that we do, and it's just been a cool thing. But yeah, I had saw it somewhere. I get a lot of grief for the orange smoke, but again, I saw that actually at a soccer match in Europe. That thing's bananas. I mean, people are like, that's the worst thing ever. Our students like it. Some of our students don't like it. Our fans in the upper deck, that thing smells like rotten eggs. So we're going to make adjustments. But yeah, everything you're trying to do is just to say, isn't that nuts? Now other people are doing smoke in the stadium. Other people are doing drone shows. And I said, the greatest form of flattery is imitation.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job of R&D on the drone show for sure.
Yeah,
Rip off and duplicate. What
for
about
sure.
your ability to track coaches though, and at the University of Texas?
It's interesting. I think one of the things you looked at, the responsibility of the chair I sit in is to make sure that we hire to the chair. And I think that you mentioned earlier, our coaches, when you think about hiring a coach, there's a wish list, there's a coach you can get, and there's the old poop list. And you never want to get there, but you always want to shoot for someone you can get. And also, you have 3 coaches on your wish list, and it comes down to culture. It comes down to those guys in the room that understand the gravitas of the University of Texas. And I'll look at it. There's an aircraft carrier and there's a fishing boat on Lake Austin. They both have the same principles. They both have an engine. They both float. Operating an aircraft carrier is completely different. To me, the University of Texas is an aircraft carrier with all the gravitas around it and what Longhorn Nation expects. And the winning tradition of the University of Texas shall not be entrusted to the timid nor the weak. So my job is to harness the greatest thing that we have, and that's the brand of the University of Texas. And that brand is precious. So I try to recruit to the brand. We try to hire to the brand. And when we looked at any coach that we've hired, they asked to understand that might be a great coach somewhere else. It's just not a good fit here. Let's go for fit. And our coaches are really close, man. They have a chat. They're always together. They talk. We have a head coaches retreat where we just spend time with each other, just talking about things. We have a monthly head coaches meeting. I'm a big fan of culture, but culture is the most underused word. I'm a big fan of standard. Hire to the standard, support to the standard. Let's understand that the gravitas of the University of Texas. We have fans on social media going back and forth. They may or may not like what we're doing, but the idea is if we uphold that and recruit to that. And Bob Bowman, you understand you're replacing Eddie, the greatest coach in the world. It's 15 national championships, not for everybody. And who can follow in those footsteps? There's one dude. Took a program at Arizona State that was complete. They dropped it. He brought it back, and he was getting ready to win a national championship. And we called him. And he goes, "Hey, I want that job."
Yeah.
Because it's the University of Texas. Laura Ianello, golf coach at Arizona alma mater, won it as a player, won it as a coach. I called her. So my job is to harness Texas, recruit to Texas, and bring the very best out of Texas so that we can, and surround them with great, successful people that will help them in the highs and lows. You're not going to win every game, but when they understand what it is and you hire to that and they feel it, you go in our cafeteria, Bobby, it is one incredible athlete after another just walking by, and you recruit to that. That's what's awesome.
Chris, I got to say this. We interview a bunch of your head coaches on this show, whether it's basketball, men's or women's basketball, volleyball, baseball, etc. They all talk about you as a factor for coming to the University of Texas. And they also talk about the camaraderie amongst the coaches. And I think that, to your point, fits the culture. You want people that fit that culture. And it seems like you've done just a great job of that. Speaking of that, one of the things that has happened at the University of Texas over the last half decade, there was a run there of not only yourself, but Kevin Eltife as chair of the Board of Regents and Jay Hartzell as president of the university. Obviously, Jay Hartzell now moving on to SMU. Jim Davis earlier this week being named interim president by Kevin Eltife. Have you talked to Jim Davis yet? What's your relationship there? Is this something that you think will have a positive, or just y'all are marching to your own beat kind of scenario right now with the athletics vis-a-vis the university?
No marching to our own beat. We're very, very fortunate to have Chairman Eltife as our chairman of the board. He's a Longhorn. And everything he always says is we're going to accentuate the brand of Texas. I've had a phenomenal relationship with President Hartzell. He chose for another opportunity. But Jim Davis is a Longhorn. He has been the guy. He has been the dude behind the scenes for everything that's transpired. And he's awesome guy. Harvard, he went to Texas undergrad, went to Harvard for law school. But when he's our COO on campus, every single decision he's been involved in. And that synergy, he reminds me of Bo Schembechler. All he always talks about, team, the team, the team. And you can have conversations with him, but when you walk out of that room, it's the team. We're not going to skip a beat. He is awesome. Like, I'm awesome. I'm so glad he's in this position. We will not skip a beat with Chairman Alteif and his leadership. You know, the regents, in terms of Governor Abbott, there's all the regents are all Longhorns, and that's key. And the key is having Kevin Alteif there, and he appointed Jim Davis, who he's Bo Schembechler. He's the team. And it's cool. I mean, this guy is like, I mean, I've had an incredible relationship for the last 5 years. And every time you walk out of there, it's always about, okay, what's good for Texas? How are we going to accentuate that? And like I said, I wish President Hartzell nothing but the best. When we had when we had a president that went to Emory, Fenves, the same. But when you think about keeping the BBs in the box, when you focus on the team and you hire to that team and you promote to that team, we will not skip a beat. We will be better.
Gotcha. Speaking with Chris Del Conte, thank you, Chris, for your time. You've been so gracious and just continually do that for all Texas fans. Appreciate it very much. You mentioned a town hall you've got coming up. I'd love for you to promote that a little bit because this gives you a chance to interact. One of the things I like with the fans directly. What is that? Tell folks about the town hall, et cetera.
Yeah, I try to have a town hall every year, and I want everyone to show up. I really do. We're going to have a little watch party afterwards to watch the Arkansas game, a little just a celebration, a fellowship together. But I'm really active on social media. I try to be as best as I can because I want to make sure that our fans know that we're here for them, and vice versa. But the town hall is for them. I'll do a year in review, and then we'll talk about what we're moving forward. We'll talk about the publicity rights case. We'll talk about scholarships. We'll talk about what we're doing. But I want to make sure that they understand their investment is we're holding up to their investment. Two, I want to hear from them, because a lot of times I may hear from social media, but you don't know who the person is, and it could be just someone that's in a particular rant. But if there's things that we can do to improve their program, the more people are there, the more they have a voice. I can outlay, here's our program. I watched years ago an Apple, Warren Buffett do his town hall, and I watched Bill Gates do his town hall, and the man at Apple do his town hall. I started that when I was at Rice and I first became an AD. I'm just going to sit here, and there's only one person that showed up. I've been doing it every year because I feel it's important. And the more people are in the room, then the more I can hear from them what's important to them. So town hall Wednesday night information's out there. So hopefully they come in, and it's just a way for me to interact with them. But more importantly, hear their iron in their voice of, hey, we're going to make a change. What does this look like? And here's why. I never want to make a change or do anything that adversely affects anyone without them having the understanding of why I'm doing it or why we think it's a good idea. And more important for them to say, okay, can you do this, this, and this? This program belongs to them. This, and I'm just the caretaker of their program. So that's why we have it. But I went from one person where it was just me and that person to it's grown. Some days, sometimes 50 people show up, sometimes 20. But I always look at it like I am going to have a conversation for them so that they can sit there and say, they have faith in what we're doing, but if they have any disagreement, then they have a chance to take me to the woodshed.
I tell you what, we'll promote that for you as well, and I think get the word out for you and everything. Chris Del Conte, tremendous ambassador for the University of Texas and administrator. Chris, thank you for the time, and you have a good one, bud. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.